I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
He's going to break his world title.
For my Gosby! Oh, he's done it! And look at these two go! Itchy Hoy is going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done.
What a race it's been!
Hello, good evening, and a howdy hello to Austin, Texas for the Circuit of the Americas, the venue of round 8 of the Formula SimRacing Pro Championship in 2025, sponsored, of course, by our friends and partners at Grid Finder. So 2 weeks ago, we had the Singapore Grand Prix where Ruben van den Hudding from second on the grid was able to take his second win of the season in spectacular fashion ahead of second place Cedric Bill and third place Giuseppe Canzonieri, who closed in on the championship leader Istvan Singer, who had a terrible race from pole position and a big collision in the pit lane, ended up finishing 5th on the road. And that was a big moment in the championship that's reduced the lead to just 15 points. As you can see, 3 rounds to go, 75 points left on the table as well. My name is Edward Hunter, if I didn't mention already. Alongside me, our broadcast director Patrik, Hanko, and the one, the only, the immutable Ryan Ferris. So Ryan, welcome to the United States. As you can see, there are our championship standings. You see Singel 15 points ahead of Giuseppe Canzonieri, the Italian in the Valle. Then we've got Cedric Bill in third, some distance behind, about 38 points behind exactly. Ruben van den Hudding, with those 3 non-scores, really hurting his championship chances, down on 89 points despite those 2 fantastic wins. Amin Sweezy is in 5th, the Tunisian for the Cell Spot team, on 59 points. We've got Nandor Massa, the man that Singer collided with in the pit lane at Singapore, in 6th on 52 points. Perseus Miram, the Canadian, is on 44 points in 7th. David Akhayan is 8th on 42 points. Jorg Winter is another 2 points behind him, and then Sander van Leeuwen rounds out the top 10. So yeah, very close, especially between our top 2 runners, and it really has all been about Single and Canzonieri and Van den Hudding at various points throughout the season, hasn't it, Ryan? But now we're getting to the crunch point here, and this is where Single will be hoping to get things back on track, and Canzonieri will be hoping to do more damage.
Yeah, we saw finally from Single that there is a bit of weakness in the armour. Up until that
human
point,
after all, right?
Yeah, up until that point, I think his worst finish was second place. So yeah, it has opened the championship up a little bit more, and it is making these last 3 races ever more important for the 2 championship contenders.
Indeed it is. As you can see, there is the field getting ready to battle. 19 drivers on the grid then. I'm trying to see if we've got we've got a lot of returning drivers. I think David O'Reilly we saw, who is our race director for the World Championship. He is taking part again for his Severin Arrows team. We've got Zabriel Lekis making his second appearance after Singapore as well. Leila Petraglia, who scored her first points in Singapore, is back for a few more. And I think we've got Sigurd Frey also returning for SimSpark as well, who we've not seen in a couple of rounds. So, yeah, and we've got the likes of Borutovsky as well, who it's always great to see him in the MV Conquest machine. Olivia Demolians as well for Ozone eSports. He was the driver who found that loophole in the rules at Spa, finished in 5th by using the medium tyres and only using the medium tyres throughout the race, which has now been covered off. So you would have thought we would have kept the 2-tyre rule in consistently every year, but apparently Olivia Demolians is basically it's a little bit like in politics where one party says, oh, the government should do this, and then they do that. That's, I feel like, what Olivia Demolians' role is, sort of pointing out all the flaws in our championship and getting us to cover up those loopholes then, as we see Singal starting his first flying lap. Now, Circuit of the Americas, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride of a circuit, isn't it, Ryan? With that sort of hairpin, that turn 1 that's seen quite a lot of chaos over the years in real life, including in the sprint race earlier this year, didn't it? Where the two McLarens, Nico Hülkenberg and Fernando Alonso, all crunched into each other. But there are a number of pretty good overtaking opportunities. We've got one just coming up now into turn 11, a big wide entry, and then there's another at the end of this straight coming up into turn 12, which I believe is the DRS straight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and Circuit of Americas, it's almost a bit of a greatest hits album in terms of the track layout. The
Herman Tilke greatest hits, yes.
Yeah, I mean you got the first sector that's very reminiscent of Maggots, Beckett's, and also the S's at Suzuka and Silverstone. With the second sector, some elements of Spa you could potentially say in certain areas, but yeah, it's many corners, and there's a good flow to it, particularly in the final sector as well.
Here we go then. Speaking of that final sector, just one more corner to go for Istvan Singal. That's turn 20, of course, as he swings it through. There's a little bit of a camber change there as well, and he immediately beats the time of Cedric Bill, who won this race in Academy last season. It was his first ever win in FSR as well. He's on a bit of a high himself, is the Frenchman Cedric Bill, and finished second at Singapore, and they as you can see there, Singal 132.5, as that is Sigurd Frey spinning on the exit of the S's there. So, of course, it's a private qualifying, that won't block anybody. But yeah, the Sim Spark sparking up the rear tyres at exactly the wrong moment. There we go. Very easy to do through, I believe, that is turn 6 and 7 that he's dropped it at.
Yeah, and the good thing about this circuit is there is plenty of runoff, so no real issues as such of finding the barriers, although I'm sure some of our drivers might have good attempts at that. The only real issues is through the first sector. Some of those curves can be really challenging and can really affect the car's suspension, and that's where we could see some incidents and failures.
You saw that David O'Reilly is qualifying, interestingly, on the hard compounded tyre, and he is, of course, our race director here at FSR in the 7 Hours team, as we see the other David Akhayan in the Optimal eSports going around. So we got race director David, and then we got David Akhayan from Optimal eSports, German David. We got Australian David and German David. So we'll just got to remember to differentiate between the duo there. There's Canzonieri, purple in the first sector, a very early apex into turn 11 before he gets on the power, and that's a 25.1 in the first sector. So I think that is pretty much matching what Singal's best lap during the hot laps in practice then. So this could get very tasty indeed then. Into turn 12 he goes, and again, the rear just hanging out, but that won't cost him too much time as he goes into 13, 14, and then the tight left-hander of 15. This is where you could see a couple of dives up the inside during the race. It's of course where Carlos Sainz's United States Grand Prix came to a very spectacular end when he crashed into Kimi Antonelli at that particular corner there. Canzonieri's first sector has actually been beaten by Singal on this lap, but this should be enough to get Canzonieri somewhere near the front row then as he comes to the line, Ryan.
Yeah, I think that slide did actually affect him a little bit. He probably would have lost a tenth or two there, and that was just enough for him to get to a green sector as opposed to a purple sector.
Yeah, he lost 3 tenths in sector 2 there.
Yeah, so still potentially time to find for Canzonieri.
Yeah, but can he string it together in the less than 4 minutes we've got left? Because Singal has been pretty much the master of qualifying. He's only missed out on pole on one occasion to Jörg Winter, who has since quit the championship. So it's looking like Singal is in a bit of a class of his own when it comes to these qualifying sessions, because he's on a bit of a streak of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row so far. Even Singapore, where his race pace just chewed through the tyres in that opening stint and was a little bit of a sitting duck, as we see the rear again hang out through the final corner. But what a spectacular lap that has been, 132.531. So I think, did he actually improve on that lap, or is that slightly slower than his best? But either way, he's 3 tenths to the good. And here comes Sweezy. The Tunisian has actually gone a bit faster in the first sector, and he gets himself onto the front row, less than 2 tenths behind our championship leader there. So important lap for Sweezy, and that's not what Canzonieri wanted to see at all. As Zabralekis, in only his second appearance, has got it up to 4th.
Yeah, Canzonieri's still in pit lane at the moment, but he's going to be running out of time if he wants to do an outlap. There's, well, 2 3/4 minutes left of the session, so still time to get out and do an outlap and set a fast lap, but Canzonieri's going to want to get his skates on.
Yeah, and I believe, by the way, David O'Reilly did mention to me and everyone else in one of the chats somewhere that he was going to start from the pit lane to avoid the chaos at turn 1, and I think Layla Petraglia has got a similar idea, given that she has stayed rooted in the pit lane, as we now see Akhayan circulating around. Unfortunately, Sigurd Frey, I think, is about 28 seconds off the pace in his SimSpark after that spin earlier, so hopefully he will be given dispensation to take part. Certainly, he's at least put a lap on the board, unlike O'Reilly and Petraglia, so you would think they would let him off for that one. But yeah, it has been a couple of absentee races for Sigurd. I don't think we've actually seen him since Sepang, if I'm not mistaken, actually, for Sigurd. Oh no, he was actually at Singapore, I forgot, but he's yet to finish a race in this championship, which is certainly the case. Then here comes Akhayan towards the line. A slightly poor middle and final sector means he stays where he is in 10th position, but Vanden Hudding has now started to light up the first sector here, and this could be positive for Valet. Remember, the team's championship, Valet are just 3 points behind Optimal at the present moment then, so every point they can get will make the difference here, but for having Zabralekis in the top 4 is also a big boost for Optimal here, and it means Vanden Hudding has got to nail this lap.
Yeah, few little corrections here and there for Vanden Hudding, but apart from that, it does look fairly... I was going to say it looks alright, but he's done a... well, he's not improved in that.
He's about 2/10 off single in that middle sector, yeah.
Yeah, so still, I think that we're going to see an improvement as long as he keeps everything all together in this final sector, but I think he's just going to miss out on that top step, potentially.
Yeah, let's hope he's got enough fuel for a final run then. 30 seconds to go in the session. Vanden Hudding towards the line, and this puts him into P3, just ahead of his teammate Canzonieri, and less than a tenth of a second behind Sweezy then. So that really shows you that Tunisian has really nailed the setup on those soft tyres, because the self spot just looks really, really quick over a single lap there. And Sweezy, who finished on the podium on the road, didn't he, at Melbourne before, sadly, for him having that taken away. He seems very, very keen. He's had a lot of 4th and 5th positions this season. He was 8th in Singapore after getting the strategy wrong. But yeah, he's definitely been one of the star rookies of the campaign, and starting the front row here would be a big milestone for him. But Singal is looking to go even quicker, and indeed he does so. 132.3, so he pulls from less than 2/10 ahead of Sweezy to 3.5 clear now. So yeah, Sweezy's got anything else in reserve here. Not looking spectacular in the first or second sectors. It's all going to come down to this final run. Vanden Hudding, he is in the pits, so he will go no quicker. Canzonieri is doing personal best in the second sector, but is it going to be enough? We see Boratovsky and Batala also improving out there. Boratovsky is going to do no better than 13th though, and here comes Sweezy. He stays second, but he does improve to a 132.6, so cuts a couple of hundredths out of single.
Oh, way too much curb there for Canzonieri. Yep, there's a sausage curb on the inside, and that, I think for a moment then, I think he forgot it was there.
Yeah, that's another unexpected surprise. We have had Halloween very, very recently, of course, but it seems there's a couple of spooky moments out there for the drivers still, as we see Batala, personal best in the first and second sector. He avoids the big curb on the inside at 19. Into the final corner, he swings the Go team towards the line. Can he sneak into the top 10 at the def here? Looks like he is unable to, but he does improve, gets a bit closer to Mathieu Feligny. But there we go, confirmation of the grid order. Istvan Singal takes, I think that's his 7th pole position in a row. Indeed it is, from Amin Sweezy, who starts on the front row for the first time in the Tunisian's FSR career. Ruben Vanden Hudding and Giuseppe Canturi make an all-valet row 2, with Costas Galamatis keeping them company close behind. So So good late lap from the Greek driver there. Cedric Bill is 6th. Sabra Alekis will start 7th. Then it's Nando Massa 8th, Percy Smirim 9th, and David Akhayan rounding out the top 10. In 11th position, it is going to be Mattia Feligni in the DRS machine. Then it is Jared Patala 12th, Andrei Bortovsky 13th, Olivia Demolian 14th, Samuele Tidona in the third of our valets will start 15th. Jerry Kotochville in for NV Conquest will start 16th ahead of Sigurd Frey. Lap time 2 minutes 0.9, so I think Sigurd will be hoping to set at least a couple of laps quicker than that in the race, because that feels like he never quite got it nailed in any sector really. David O'Reilly and Leia Protractor did not set times in the session, so they will both start, you would assume, from the pit lane, but you can also see from the icon there that the ELK team, Leia Protractor's squad, have got a new identity, signing up with Venus Motorsports, which is Alice Stone's organisation. If you've been watching a Formula Sprint 2, you will notice Leia Protractor has been driving for them last couple of races there as well in Grand Prix Virtual World Championship. So yeah, Leila Petraglia, we know, very, very proud of the association with Venus Motorsports, the all-female team. And I think there is a plan to get Charlotte Menick in a second Venus ELK for the final 2 rounds of the season. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they get on. And it certainly is an eye-catching livery, black, pink, and baby blue.
Yeah, with the Logitech sponsorship down the side of it, it definitely sticks out particularly well compared to the rest of the field. One less car in the same colours as the rest, so makes it a bit easier for us commentators.
Always helps in a sea of Go teams, doesn't it? Yeah. Not that we are complaining, because I think Go team have supplied an array of absolutely fantastic drivers to the championship. Optimal eSports too, for that matter, with their white and their white, prominently white cars, aren't they? Optimal. And yeah, of course, Go team have provided us with Mark Schluter, of course, who is looking like he may well be the have a chance of winning the World Championship in about an hour and a half's time once this race ends and the World Championship begins, because he is 54 points ahead of Jeffrey Fournier and Sandra Callis, which are the only two, I think, realistically, that can beat him. I think our broadcaster to Patrik Hanko is probably quite keen to remind me that he is also in title contention, mathematically at least, as well. So I will just say that, and and I think that covers that. But yeah, in terms of the Pro Championship, though, it is I don't think Istvan Singler can mathematically tie it up today, because there are just too many points left on offer. 50 points after today, and he only leads by 15. So even if Single wins today, I think things would have to go spectacularly wrong to set up a sort of chance to win the title in Suzuka in a couple of weeks' time on November 16th, of course. But yeah, certainly Istvan Singel, after the blip in Singapore, that pole position was exactly what he needed. But remember, we saw this before in Singapore, started on pole, got jumped by Van der Hudding at the first corner and hit trouble. The advantage now is he's got Sweezy alongside him, who's not used to starting that high up. But on the other hand, I mean, Sweezy, not part of the title fight. We've seen him. He's not shy about doing a spectacular overtake or two if the opportunity presents itself. So Sweezy could well become a surprise threat for victory here, which is not really what Optimal, Go Team or Valet would have had in mind going into this one.
Yeah, I think Valet are going to be wanting to get a very good start and try and jump Sweezy into turn 1, or at least try and get one of them past. And hopefully that will leave the competition open between the title contenders against Single.
Indeed. So yeah, definitely Valet still looking in a strong position to steal the team's championship lead at the present moment. I think Zolzuk says, please put the music volume down. So I assume that's from a while ago, and that hopefully we haven't been completely drowned out during that quality section. But yeah, anyway, looks like the formation lap is about to begin, Ryan, and it's interesting. I do wonder what the strategy is going to be here, because it looks predominantly like, at least from what we're seeing at the moment, for the favoured race tyres are going to be the mediums and the hards, as we see Singel starting the formation lap on what looks to be the hard tyres, but we'll have to see if that's confirmed once we get underway. Here is your grid order then. Istvan Singal on the pole position with Amin Sweezy joining him on the front row for the first time. It's an all-valet row 2. Ruben van den Hudding leading Giuseppe Canzonieri. On row 3, it's Kostas Galamatis with Cedric Bill for close company. Zabra Alecki starts 7th with Nandor Marsa tucked in closely behind on row 4. Row 5 is Persis Miram joined by David Aghayan. On row 6, it's Mathieu Feligny and Jared Bertala. On row 7, it will be Andrei Borotovsky with Olivier Demoliens, the Frenchman in the Ozone Esports, in 14th. Then on row 8 will be Samuele Tidona and Juri Kotochvil. Sigurd Frey on his return, his 4th start in Pro Championship will start 17th. David O'Reilly lines up 18th, and Leila Petraglia will be 19th on the grid. So I think David, by virtue of doing a lap on the hard tyres, whereas Petraglia just stayed in the pits during quali, that's why O'Reilly starts higher up on the grid. But we are actually seeing Juri Kotochvil is still in the pit lane during the formation lap, so there's been a late issue there for the Czech driver from the Czech Republic. And Juri, who's also a race steward, we should point out, although he has received a couple of penalties for first corner incidents himself early in the season. So one way to avoid that would be to start after everybody else from the pit exit.
Yeah, and the thing to look for here, if what we see is correct and that Singal is on the hards and Sweezy on the mediums, in theory that would mean Sweezy could get a better start than Singal on the hards, as the hards doesn't yield as much traction, as much grip. So if I'm in Sweezy's position, I've got nothing to lose, I'm just going to send it, sort of thing. And Singal's got everything to lose, so he's potentially put himself in a bit of a difficult situation here as Singal if things don't go to plan.
Indeed, so Istvan Singal will be hoping that he can nail this strategy. He has made the alternate strategy work before then, the hard tyres stopping on their marks. Leila Petraglia will be the last driver to join the grid in 19th position, although it will technically be 18th as all. It looks like Sigurd Frey had a spin on the formation lap and actually does very well not to hit the back of the purple rear wing of the Venus car there of Leila Petraglia. But yeah, Juri Kotochvil will be waiting at the exit of the pit lane, waiting for the cars to blast uphill into turn 1. It's a wide entry here. Keep your eyes on Singal, Sweezy, Van den Hudding and Canzonieri, our top 4, all hoping that it'll be them that gets into the first corner first, and more importantly escapes into turn 2 in first, because that could set up how the rest of this plays out then. The lights are on, and in a few moments time we'll get going at the Circuit of the Americas for round 8 of the Pro Championship, which begins now. And it's blast off into turn 1. Looks like Singal bogged down ever so slightly, but he pulls across to cut off the path of Amin Sweezy, who gets mugged either side by the 2 valets. Van den Hudding absolutely swinging in, but it's going to be Canzonieri that I think gets the better exit there and goes up to P2. So Sweezy had pretty much nowhere to go in the first corner there. Oh! And off track goes Singal. And he rejoins right behind Giuseppe Canzonieri there. So Canzonieri takes the lead crucially through the S's there. And that is going to be key to his championship now, cutting into that 15-point lead of Istvan Singal. As Leila Petraglia negotiates with Borotovsky some of the back markers there. Oh, and a dive up the inside. That's Van den Hudding trying to get back ahead of Sweezy into turn 11. And he's successful there. No DRS on the first lap, but from lap 2 onwards, it will be fair game down this section to open the rear wing if you're within 7/10 of the car in front then. But Sweezy is not going to wait that long to try and counter-attack here. He's got Galamatis all over the back, and he immediately takes the apex into turn 12 and retakes that podium position. He's so keen to get that first podium, isn't he? Much to the consternation of Van den Hudding.
Yeah, and Van den Hudding's going to try and go under, over, and down the inside goes Van den Hudding on Sweezy. And that's another good move there.
Oh, very nearly forced him off track there. That was very, very hard racing. I don't think Sweezy will be too impressed, but he's got an opportunity to get his own back. Galamatis is watching these two fight. He's got the best seat in the house as we go back to David Aghayan, who's chasing Nandor Marsa and Cedric Bill, the 2 Go teams. Aghayan has actually jumped his teammate Alekis, the rookie driver in his second appearance from 7th on the grid. Has had a bit of a tricky start here, but he has survived the first lap. Unfortunately, Sigurd Frey, you cannot say the same for. He is out at the end of lap 1 already. And there is Juri Kotochvil who, starting in the pit lane exit, has, I think, spun at the first corner, hit the wall, and lost his front wing.
Yeah. I'm not sure what happened there because it was showing that it was 2 laps down. So I think he's obviously came out late and then
Whoa.
just
That
lost
looks
it.
like a frustrated driver there. So poor Jerry, back to the steward's room for him, quite literally, to be the steward rather than getting in trouble. But yeah, him and Sigurd Frey will take no further part in the race. That leaves us with just 17 drivers remaining on the board then. But Canzonieri has already broken out of DRS of Istvan Singel, and that is worrying times for the championship lead because Van den Hudding, having cleared Sweezy crucially, could be about to spread the pain here. As you can see, Feligny is starting to put pressure on Sabareleki. He's trying to drop him back down to 9th position here. So Feligny gaining ground from 12th on the grid.
Yeah, he's been doing pretty well up to 10th. As we look here, we've passed the entry actually, as Sweezy got a massive load of wheel spin off the line, which is why he had such a poor start. And as you can see here, around the outside is Canzonieri, and then takes the inside as they come into the S's, and it just seems as though
There was contact between Sweezy and Van den Hudding there, as there's a crash in the back, and that must be what happened to Sigurd Frey then. And then there's a go team that is sent sideways, which leads to, I think, is that Boratovsky that got spun around there. It's definitely one of the MV Conquests then, ends up behind Petraglia's Demolians, just plays it safe and gets through as we see a bit of side-by-side. Oh, Singel collides with Van den Hudding there, and again Istvan Singel cuts the track at the S's there. So my goodness, Singel is really feeling the pressure.
Yeah, I don't know how the track limit strikes work here, but so far it's twice that we've seen, although there was definitely contact here as a result of it.
Tough to say because I think Van den Hudding may have had the racing line there, and Singel kept his nose in, and lucky they didn't take each other out there. But especially for Singel, knowing Canzonieri is leading his race, he cannot afford to lose his front wing in another clumsy collision like we saw in the pit lane at Singapore. Speaking of that collision, there's the other man who was involved in it, Nando Marsa, about to see Ak Hayan breeze past with the DRS, and he cuts off the racing line to prevent Marsa from the Hungarian from attacking him into turn 12 there. So very, very good racecraft from Ak Hayan. That puts him up to P7, and certainly Optimal need all the help they can get with Singel. Oh, losing out now to Van den Hudding. It's a Valet 1-2, and Istvan Singel is now going to see Canzonieri at the moment is set to cut 10 points out of his championship lead. So we could be left, if it finishes like this, 2 races to go. Canzonieri is only going to be 5 points behind Singel, and look, Sweezy now fancies a run at him. Of course, we do know Singel is running longer on the hard tyre, so we can't get too excited, but still, this is not good. He would have hoped to not be this slow at this point, as up the inside comes Sweezy into 3rd position, and it looked like Singel was almost standing still there.
Yeah, you can just see Singel has not got the grip with those hard compound tyres. You saw that he tried to do the under-over on Sweezy, and the tyres just said nope, and just spun up instead. So definitely not a fun time at the moment for Singel on those hard compound tyres.
Which is interesting to see Boratovsky clearing Perseus Miram, because if you look at the lap times of, say, Cedric Bill, who's also on the hards, he's setting 138.290, which is only about 3/10 off what Canzonieri is doing in the lead of the race then. So it's not that the hard tyre is a dud tyre or anything, it's just the way Singel has set up this car. It does not seem to like it whatsoever. He wants those more grippy softs, even if they decay a bit quicker, which is why they're not the most practical choice here. But now we're seeing this 2nd place battle heat up here as Van den Hudding, his old friend Sweezy, has come back to play with him, and he wants to escape up the road as quickly as possible. But Sweezy has got his hands full of Singel, and Gatlamard is starting to catch as well. This is on board with Miram. He was the one that hit the side of Tidona, and then there was the collision with Boratovsky there. So Miram tried to almost stay in the wall and out of the way while all that was happening.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch exactly. Oh, right, so Miram's gone wide and gone off track, and then he's just kind of clumsily come back on.
Boratovsky get hit in the rear, I think.
Yeah, there was, I think, where they were sort of having to check up to try and miss Miram, who was kind of clumsily coming back onto the circuit. It kind of caused a bit of a concertina effect there.
Now this is interesting now, because Singel is lapping the 139.0s, But he's now going to start getting DRS from the back of Sweezy, and he's got his teammate Gallon Amatis on the medium, so on a different strategy here. And then you've got Cedric Bill another 1.4 seconds down the road on the hards then. So really, we know Bill is on the same strategy as Singles, but if Bill is taking maybe 7/10 a lap out of Single, that could get very, very worrying times for the championship leader then. So even if the hards, the mediums start dropping off a cliff in like, say 12 laps time or so, if he's already lost so much time at this point in the race, look at the gap that Canzonieri has. He's nearly 4 seconds ahead of Single now, and 2.6 seconds ahead of his teammate Van den Hudding. So Canzonieri is absolutely nailing it right now, and seems to be taking more and more control over the United States Grand Prix then, as we see Jared Batala under attack from Olivier Demoliens, recovering from all the drama on the first lap. Then they're right behind Tidona as well. That's what's giving Batala DRS down the straights. Then Samuele Tidona, the nephew of our race leader Giuseppe Canzonieri, desperate getting to the top 10 here, as we see side by side into turn 12, very, very deep from Perseus Miram, who goes off track, and Boratovsky nearly loses it himself, staying on the circuit. He's got the inside line for 13. They nearly collide with each other. Miram goes a little bit wide. That's exactly where Owen McGorgy and Yannick Bock collided while fighting for the FSR World Championship last year in 2024. But luckily, Miram and Boratovsky avoid a sort of tribute act there. And Miram somehow, despite arriving at turn 12 at 600 miles per hour, somehow keeps the position.
I was going to say, did Miram actually spend any of those corners on the track there? They seem to be all off tracks for a moment then. But big old hit there for Paglia, and that's crabbing. So that's going to be
serious steering damage there. But Leila Petraglia crucially still in the race, and with all the incidents we've seen so far, there's every chance that she could sneak back into the points, and that would certainly be great news for Venus. Every point they can get could well be the difference to getting them off of that bottom spot in the championship at the moment. Certainly the 2 points from Singapore have put them equal with Accelerate Racing. Michael Falkenhayn doing just the one race for them at Malaysia earlier this season, where they finished 14th. And yeah, sadly, we've not seen too much of Accelerate Racing since then, as we see Singel up the inside, trying to get back in front of Sweezy. So the medium starting to fade. Sweezy sees himself pushed to the outside, but he's going to stick his nose in into 13. And Singel, desperate, needs to avoid a collision here. He needs to make a clean move. He's going to try and hold the inside into turn 14. And Sweezy will try and nail the exit there, but you sense with the DRS, with the mediums fading, Singel had an opportunity. There's Tidona hits the back of Batala there. Oh, and nearly loses it out of 13.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is I wonder if there's been some form of team orders at Valle. If Canzonieri takes the lead and Van den Hooden's running second, is he kind of playing the rear gunner here in trying to back the pack up?
Oh, and this is what happened to Miram. I think that's a little bit too much speed to arrive at turn 6 with, and that's why he's ended up facing rearwards in the gravel trap. That's exactly what we saw Sigurd Frey doing. Unfortunately, we have seen Leila Petraglia retire from the race, so we've got 16 runners left in, as this is Batala going up the inside of Tidona. It was a late braking maneuver, but fair play to him. He pulled it off, and then I think Tidona, a little bit overzealous, just taps the back of him through 13, trying to get back through there, and then nearly drops it himself.
Yeah, very, very twitchy stuff there from Tidona, and trying to go for a gap that was always going to close, pretty much. So back at the front, and Sweezy's now been dropped by Singal, and has now got Galamartis for company. So this looks like this could be candy from a baby here in for Galamartis.
Yeah, is this a bit of inexperience for Sweezy coming back to bite him here? He's got a great qualifying car, but the mediums do not look in great shape after 7 laps. Side by side, Galamartis has now got the inside for turn 13, but Sweezy swings it from the outside. There's a bit of contact between the two cars as they rub sidewall to sidewall on those tyres, and Sweezy sees himself shuffled back down to 5th, and now Cedric Bill on the hard tyres, which have obviously held up well in this first stint, and Bill has been lapping consistently in the mid-38s here, which is matching the times of Canzonieri and Van den Hudding. That's going to set him up well here. Single, though, is starting to lap into 1:38.2s.
Yeah, and Miram finding the runoff once again. He's really not having a great day here today. Oh, and this is where, I know, he manages to make it round this time.
Oh, he's certainly having some adventures or misadventures out there today as he loops it round. You can feel frustration from the cockpit of the Canadian as he wedges it into the barrier in his haste to rejoin the circuit there, and he gives the FSR logo a very brutal hug there as we see Amin Sweezy under attack. That's Bill getting through at the first corner, but he's round the outside, and I think Sweezy was able to hold him off actually. So he was trying to do what Van den Hudding did on the first lap, go the long way around and sort of hope that you get the traction from the exterior of the track there, but didn't work for Cedric Bill on this occasion. But he is giving Sweezy a very hard time as there's Miram. Oh, and I think we can confidently say through 16-17 that Miram's day is very much at a conclusion.
Yeah, it's not been the most entertaining as this is single around the outside of Van den Hudden. Hudden's going to try and close the door, which he does so well. And that's another attempt gone. I can see he's going to try and have another look, but Van den Hudden on the softer compound tyres on those mediums, just able to get a little bit more traction out of the corners.
Yeah, and Cedric Bill has cleared Amin Sweezy now. David Akhayan will be the next to challenge here. And for Sweezy, you can tell, as much as he's struggling on the mediums, if he stops now, he's going to have to do a very, very long stint on the hards, isn't he? So he's sort of between a rock and a hard place now. He's just got to stop the bleeding, stop hemorrhaging positions there. But for Van den Hudding, he has got to keep Single behind as long as possible. Single, though, was dipping actually into the high 137s there. The lap before this one. Now he's being held up by Van den Hudding. He's stuck at his pace, the sort of low 39s, as we see Akhayan slipping through up the inside for 6th position there. So Amin Sweezy, after fantastic qualifying, is just seeing his race start to unravel a little bit here.
Yeah, as we see, the side-by-side action there, and this is where Bill managed to get past Sweezy, and yeah, after, like you said, a very energetic and exciting start for Sweezy, it's kind of all going backwards for him now as he's about to lose another place to Akhayan now, who's been doing a brilliant job so far. I think he started 10th position, he's now up to 6th position now.
Here's Saba Elekis, who is in 10th, so he's had a bit of a misadventure on the hard tyres, just going a bit off track at turn 19 there. Can't afford to do that too many times, as Marsa has also fallen down to 9th, so he's only about 2 seconds ahead of Elekis, and this is him going off at the top of the hill through 9 and 10 there. So yeah, lucky he didn't spin it around, because we saw with Miram how awkward that can be when you get wedged in the barrier at that corner there. And I think Alex Laho had a spin there in the World Championship race there last year as well on the first lap, which he was quite lucky to survive. But yeah, nonetheless, Canzonieri still leading by 3.2 seconds. So Van den Hudding has been going about 0.4 a lap slower than Canzonieri, and that is really helping Giuseppe Canzonieri pull away a little bit, where Single sort of stuck behind, having to match Van den Hudding's pace. Galamadis as well has been a 10th or 2 quicker than Single too, so it's not inconceivable we could see a freeway fight for 2nd position there, as Demolians now catching up to Andrei Borotovsky. Borotovsky, who's certainly one of the more interesting characters in FSR Pro, up against the Demolians, who I somewhat unfairly nicknamed the Demolition Demolians in some of the other championships that I commentate on him, since he struggles to get to the end of races. But he's really, since that 5th place at Spa, he's turned a corner. He's become shown much more potential than I think many people expected then, and they are fighting for 12th position. So with Miram and Tidona exiting stage right, everybody that finishes now will score some points, with David O'Reilly at the back of the field then, as we now see Single using the DRS once more, but he's a little bit too far back to mount a challenge on Van den Hudding into turn 12 here. So Single, what does he do now? Does he just wait for the medium runners to pit here, or is he going to be desperate to clear Van den Hudding? Because if he just fights, they could lose more time to Canzonieri.
That's who's that? Just
Borotovsky, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So the millions through, but I was quite surprised actually, because we saw Van den Hudding lighting those tyres up onto the start-finish straight. The back straight. And I thought that was definitely going to be an opening for Single, but Single just didn't seem to be able to have the pace to get alongside there. But he's still hammering away and chiseling away at Van den Hudding. It seems like Van den Hudding's starting to feel a bit of pressure from behind now, as those medium tyres start to go away from this point onwards.
Oh, look at the Valet drifting through the first corner there. So yeah, Van den Hudding is Certainly going sideways in a hurry here, but is that going to be enough to keep this train of cars starting to form behind at bay? We've got Single, Gandalf, the two Optiminals, so there's not just Canzoneri's Drivers' Championship hopes to think about, there's the Teams' Championship as well, with Valet going in 3 points behind. They've got both cars ahead of both Optiminals, but Single on that alternate strategy could still be a threat here as this race goes on, because Single will go longer into the race, you would expect, and then pit for mediums to the end.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting part to see how Single manages on the mediums compared to everyone else on the hard compound tyres. Has Canzoneri got a large enough advantage at the moment so that when things do switch around, is he going to still hold on to that lead over Single?
Here comes Feligny then in the DRS car, opening that rear wing that it's named after, taking the apex up the inside, but Sweezy, desperate not to lose further ground, has got the inside for 13, and it is a DRS versus cell spot here, and it is Feligny that's got the inside into turn 15. It's the shorter line, but it's Sweezy that swings around the outside and narrowly holds on. Both of them on the mediums then, so we're seeing two relatively inexperienced teams and drivers going at it hammer and tongs, and it's a question of who has preserved the mediums in better shape 12 laps into this one. Feligny looking menacing as he challenges for the top 7, so he's gained about 4 positions from where he started, Mattia Feligny, and he's looking to gain another one, so an quietly impressive run from the DRS drivers. Now we see Singal taking an alternate line out of turn 2, looking a bit fed up with being stuck behind Van Eyck. We did see the two of them colliding, didn't we, as Single's trying to defend early on when the hards were not as competitive as the mediums at that phase. But now the tyre wear is creeping in. Single is ever so slightly looking to be a threat here, as we're in a bit of a stalemate then at this phase of the race.
Yeah, as we look back to Massa ahead of Lecky, and that's a bit of a, I think that definitely some server issues on his side, or connection issues, sorry. As we move further on up to this battle still, Sweezy versus Feligny, and interestingly, Sweezy not really taking much in terms of defensive lines. Obviously, the problem with this circuit is the optimal lines to take do leave the door open. So you see during this middle sector here, Sweezy's taking these very wide lines, which means that he gets better exit out of the corners, but it does leave the door open for Feligny to go down the inside, as you can see there.
Yeah, Feligny desperately trying to put the pressure on and sort of make Sweezy second guess himself, as this is David O'Reilly, or DOR as it says on the top of the halo, having a bit of an off-track moment at the final corner, but O'Reilly is about 22 seconds behind Demolians and Borotovsky, who are fighting over 12th position. O'Reilly, another driver, though, that started on the hards, but we are seeing the first of the medium runners pit in, and is David Akhayan going for the undercut. Remember, he was behind Cedric Bill in 6th position before he pit there. So this will be fascinating to see who responds and who decides to stay out here, especially of the medium runners, because that can start to put pressure on Galnamaris and in turn on Van den Hudding and Canzoneri in the race lead.
Yeah, and 35 laps on a hard compound tyre, that's quite a big ass, so I'm assuming that he's going to have to come in and do a second stop later on in the race.
You would think so, but it depends how confident Akhayan is feeling here. He comes out in clear air, about 7 seconds behind Batala then, so it's not worked out too badly. Now we see Singal, you see here Bill and Singal on the hard tyres. They know they can run a bit longer here, as again Singal shows his nose to the inside but doesn't really commit to a move into 12, and this is backing him up into Galnamaris, who in turn is being backed into Cedric Bill here. So this is a really tricky situation from Optiminal, because they're stuck behind the second valet and they've got a go team in the form of Bill nipping at their heels as well. So they're sort of being pincered in here and there's no escape.
Yeah, interestingly, it's a somewhat McLaren-coloured car versus 2 Mercedes-coloured cars. It's a bit reminiscent of the situation in Mexico with Russell and Antonelli. Same sort of situation. Galamatis is probably going to be playing rear gunner for Single, but now he's under pressure from Bill and definitely feels he's got the pace. compared to his teammate.
Are we going to get any George Russell style messages from Galamatis? I've got a go team up my backside as Amin Suizi comes in. So he, unsurprisingly, we did see the mediums start to fade very early on in his stint. So it's not surprising that he has followed Akhayan in pit lane bound. Looks like he's going to merge behind him, potentially, though, ahead of Olivier Demoliens then. So Sweezy's gone for another set of mediums, interestingly, according to race view at least. So that implies to me he's thinking of a soft stint near the end, because I don't see him doing this if he was going to pick for the hard tyres after just another really short medium stint.
Yeah, and Single as back on the DRS, but
Oh,
down
here comes
the inside is Bill. Oh, that's going to hit Single!
No, he takes Cedric Bill, clatters into the side of Istvan Single there. Single quietly minding his own business, sees himself spun around at turn 12, and could that be another significant moment in this championship as Canzonieri, the grin on his face, getting wider and wider by the lap. It was a fair move for Bill, but there was nowhere to go at that point once he committed.
Yeah, and it's a very hard move to try and pull off if you're following a train of cars like that, because you have no room to overshoot the corner to try and get the car stopped as you usually would for the overtake. But obviously he had Single right there, and there's nothing he could really do about it in terms of once he committed for that overtake, as that's off.
My goodness, so that was Demoliens then going right off track to complete that move. As we see another replay of this. Canzonieri, by the way, is pit from the lead and emerged in 8th positions. There we go. Actually, very, very well done there from Galamatis not to get taken out in that collision. But ironically, it was our two hard tyre runners that hit each other there, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think, is that coming out? Oh, Feligny into the barriers.
And there goes the front wing. So DRS intact, but not the front part of the car, sadly, for Mathieu Feligny. And yeah, he's done exactly what we saw Kratochvil do on his start of the race. So it's going to be an embarrassing trudge back to the pit lane, but that gave a free position to Canzonieri almost immediately there.
Yeah, that's one less car for him to deal with, and a little bit more clearer air for him to go into. And it seems like now that the pit stop has happened, Van den Hudden's found a little bit more pace over Galamatis behind.
You can see how much time Single and Bill lost with the spin. Last lap, 1:43.6 for the both of them. Leaders are in the 1:40.4s and 0.7s. And then we have got the likes of Massa at 1:39.4, and Akhayan is in the 1:37.7s on the fresh hard tyres. So in comes Van den Hudden. They know the game is up here and they cannot afford to lose any more time. But it is going to be Galamatis that inherits the lead then, as you see Bill, who is, I think, quite sportingly let Single back in front of him after the spin, is now back racing with him again. So where's Van den Hudden going to emerge relative to Canzonieri? That could be fascinating.
Yeah, I think he'll be probably a few seconds behind as we see him exiting pit lane. Canzonieri's gone through now. Now, will he lose any more positions? No. So he comes out ahead of Akhayan and has got fresh air in front of him between himself and Canzonieri.
Yep, but not the case though for Canzonieri. He has got Massa trying to hold off Saber Alekis, and Alekis has got the fresh hard tyre shod valet of Canzonieri, eager not to lose time here. So this is critical for his race. It needs to be a clean move here on both of these drivers then, if Canzonieri wants to make sure that the hard tyre runners aren't a threat to him later on when they switch to the mediums here.
Yeah, and Alekis can have a bit of gamesmanship here. Obviously in an octagonal car, and he's got the lead Valley eSports car behind. Is he going to do anything to kind of upset Canzonieri behind?
Oh, a little wiggle there as he pulls to the inside to defend. He's going to make Canzonieri go the long way round. And Zabralakis goes a bit deep into turn 12, so that means the Valley's going to be alongside on the outside, but not really far enough alongside. He tries to get the cutback out of 13 into 14, and now 15. It's a late dive on the brakes, a bit of a lock-up, bit of contact between the two. Alekis goes off track, keeps the position there. I think he will argue that Canzonieri pushed him off track there into 15.
Yeah, and as I said, this is not doing very well for Canzonieri, as Galamatis now pits from the lead, giving Single the lead.
Yeah, so Single back in the position he would have wanted to be, but not with the gap behind he would have hoped to have at this phase.
Indeed, and what he's going to try and do is push on those cards as we see down the inside as Canzonieri on Leckies. Brilliant move there. Can he make it stick? Oh, he's got a bit of sideways. Leckies is coming back at him as well.
Oh, but Leckies' rear tyres are fading quite rapidly there. So Canzonieri had to go so tight because he had made that sort of dummy to the inside, and that really compromised his exit a bit. But crucially, he's got the move, got the track position, and the Optiminal will block his way no further. So now he can catch up to Nando Marsa, who will also is no slouch on the hard tyres. So Marsa may also be a bit of a tough nut to crack. Of course, they're not in a direct fight with Go Team. It is a rival team that nonetheless has got no incentive to let him through then. So Canzonieri finds a tiny gap. There was somebody pitting behind, so that was quite risky if somebody would have been coming out of the pits. You see a bit of oversteer as he tries to get on the power, and then the same problem for Zabraleckis as well then. So Canzonieri, it was a bold move, and he was lucky he had just enough traction to pull it off.
Yeah, awesome switch back there as we see Leckies is all over the back of, oh no, that's Van den Hudden now on Leckies.
Yep, so Ruben Leckies goes off track, so a slightly easier move then for Van den Hudden on the exit of 13, and this is a replay of what just happened between these two. You can see again Zabraleckis doing a similar trick, a bit of contact on the apex of turn 12 there between the rearing and weaving from Leckies there. I think that's just the rear tyres fading away as Boratovski, after his earlier spin, deciding to call it a day, I think, in the garage. And Andrzej Boratovski, not a man shy about showing his emotions, as here comes Canzonieri up the inside of Marsa. Better exit from the final corner then, and Canzonieri already up to third. This is bad news for Single and Bill then, because now Canzonieri's got clear track ahead of him in which to catch up to them.
Yeah, it's big advantage, big gap though, just under 15 seconds between Single and Canzonieri. Obviously, the other thing to keep an eye on is the fact that Single will be going on to the medium compound tyres when he pits, unlike Canzonieri, who's currently on the hard compound tyres. So that's another thing to look out for.
Exactly. So Cedric Bill, though, seems to be playing this rather smartly. 9/10 behind, as we see, Marsa covering off Van den Hudden into turn 11 there, but this will be the better overtaking opportunity with the DRS on the rear of that valet opening up. He picks the outside line. Marsa gives just enough space, and surely Van den Hudden is going to arrive and cut across before they get to the braking zone. As you see Gallimatis overtaking Zabraleckis then, and that is Gallimatis on the fresh mediums. Of course, he's only used the medium tyres so far in this race then, so it makes sense for Gallimatis. He pit a bit later than some of the others, didn't he, after 16 laps. So he's only pit a couple of laps ago. That they're doing something a bit different on strategy here. A similar strategy to Sweezy, I guess, by going 2 stints on the mediums to start the racing. And that gives them a little bit more flexibility, I guess, but they still will have to definitely pit before the end. Whereas some of those on the hards may well be trying to go all the way to the end at this point, as we see in comes
Leckies, I think, yeah.
Saba, yeah, so I think those hards are done at this point after 19 laps or so.
Yeah, that's not masses more than what the medium runners have been doing, but I guess for Gallimatis, they're trying to go for track position in the early parts of this race by doing 2 stints on the mediums, and then he'll potentially go for hards, or I don't know, I don't think he'll be able to eke it to softs, so it'll definitely be hards to the end.
I suspect you're right there, Ryan. Out comes Zabraleckis into the first corner in 10th position. Some distance behind Batala in the Go team. But there is Gallimatis all over the back of Nando Marsa, yet to pit off of the hard tyres. So Marsa is trying to shadow his teammate Bill, who in turn is directly shadowing. He's about 7/10 behind Single here. So Single, he may be leading the race, and he may be on a different strategy to Kenthru, but he's got no breathing room behind him. And speaking of breathing room, there's pressure still a little bit between these two, as Gallimatis already through using the DRS on that Optiminal. I always think the O in the Optiminal rear wing looks like a cookie because it's got little spots on it and it's sort of cookie coloured as well. I don't know, this popped into my head randomly during the race. You can tell I'm ill, can't you?
I was going to say, is someone hungry at the moment, but...
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should have had something more substantial with that coffee. In comes Single. So that is a big call there. That releases Cedric Bill into the lead of the race. But this is going to put Single, quite far down the pack behind Sweezy potentially here.
Yeah, it's definitely not worked out for Single. Obviously, it lost a bit of time with the contact from earlier, but staying out where on those tyres has really cost him here. He's going to come out behind Galamatis. There's Marsa and Aghat. Yes, Sweezy. There we go. So 8th position there. He's lost a load of positions from going long on that first stint, and he's doing another stint on hard. So he's only going to do the one stint on the mediums.
Yeah, or he might be saving up for a soft stint in the tail end of the race then. But yeah, we'll have to see if that updates or not. But I'm seeing the same information as you, Ryan. Hard tyres for Singer. And look at how much Marsa, yet to pit, is defending from Akine and now Sweezy as well. Sweezy on the fastest compounded tyre here on the mediums here. He's got a little run up the inside. Is it wise to go this early though on Akine? Because again, yeah, that's going to compromise his exit. He will get DRS though, but this is backing them into Single as well. So this is not ideal for Istvan Single because he's going to have to make basically 2 moves at once here. But here comes Sweezy up the inside of David Akheim. Both of them have got the DRS. Who's the latest on the brakes? Oh, we've seen this go wrong before, haven't we? With Cedric Bill as Akheim gets a little bit pushed off track, but Sweezy has made it through into 6th position.
Oh, sideways there, and Marsa's just gone off. Oh, just about comes off behind the 2 Optiminals, and there's contact there.
Zach Hyan diving up the inside in turn 15 on Sweezy, and I think Sweezy did not appreciate that one bit. And Single is thinking, come on, David, it's my turn. I've just pit, you've got to let me through. But yeah, Nando and Marsa, I think, going just 1 lap too long on the hards, and they seem to be absolutely spent. Maria's just did not give any traction through turn 13 whatsoever. Let's see a replay then on board with Sweezy, Ryan.
Yeah, down the inside and almost getting the move done, but Aghayan decides to hang it out around the outside, and then in the slipstream, he's going to get the precious DRS. But the pair of them have got DRS actually.
Yeah, I thought Sweezy was going to hit Marsa. Look how close he got into 12.
It looked a lot closer from our angle, but from there it didn't look too bad. But yeah, and then here's Marsa just going off, yeah.
That's frustrating though for Nando Marsa because he's trying to go 1 lap too long. The tyres can't take it, and he was desperately going opposite lock to save it. But by that point, the tyres were already spinning. The wheels were literally spinning in front of him, and he was sort of powerless to stop it because the grip is gone. So no wonder he's gone back to the pits and emerged in 10th place. Single still stuck behind Akayan here, and this is not ideal for his race. And surely he's going to have to let him through now, and indeed he does. DRS open, David Akayan sticks right to the outside and well out of the firing line. And now Single free to chase down Amin Sweezy, who we know the mediums presumably he's been on them 7 laps. They're not going to be in decent shape for too much longer there. But there's Cedric Bill. To me, it looks like Single's committing to the 2-stop, whereas Bill is absolutely going for the 1-stop. And considering we saw Marsa spin around, Bill has done well to stay in the sort of high 38s, given that the hards have been on them for like 21 laps, hasn't he? He's been caught rapidly by about 2nd a lap by Canzonieri, who's 9 seconds behind him. But still, this is a bold call in terms of the strategy, and it could well pay out for him.
Yeah, and obviously by doing less pit stops you lose less time. It's whether or not the offset between you staying out longer and you doing an extra pit stop is going to make all the difference, really. Because if you're gonna, it's all well going long, but if you're going to lose too much time to the rest of the field, then it's not going to work out too well. But it seems okay for the moment.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Bill actually won this race in Academy, shorter distance, of course. I think 75% versus the 85% that pro race distance is. And he was in a battle directly with Canzonieri pretty much the entire race, and he beat him. I think that was the race where Peter Knapp and Dano Brandfom, who were fighting for the championship, tangled with each other, and Peter Knapp spun Brandfom around and then came to a dead stop to let him back through and fell to like 14th as a consequence of that, and fought his way up to I think 5th or 6th by the end. And then that led to that championship finale in Academy at Suzuka that Peter Knapp won quite convincingly by winning the race, of course. But yeah, certainly this is a very different story though, because Canzonieri, you got to think, is in the net lead. It's just what can Bill, in particular Single as well, who's now stuck behind Sweezy. So the problem for Single now, if you look at his overall race time, he's about 18 seconds off the lead and 9 seconds off the back of Canzonieri.
Yeah, and I think the way that this stint has started has not quite gone to plan for Single. I think being on those new hard compound tyres, I think as he's lining up a move for Sweezy into turn 1, it's not quite close enough, but Sweezy is being very gentlemanly about it, and Single pretty much having the optimal problem on the hard compound tyres, unable to get the power down out of turn 1 whilst trying to do the move. And I feel for Single, he really wants to be letting these tyres in gently, but he's pretty much come straight out of the pit lane and straight into a dogfight.
Yeah, and you saw he almost like he had the move done and then the wheels spun up on him. Yeah, so it definitely feels that these early laps on the hards are the toughest ones from Miss Van Zinger's point of view. So we ride on board with Alecki's well over the sausage curb and into the boonies there at turn 19, but he rejoins safely as he chases down Batala, who's only about 6/10 ahead of him on rapidly decaying mediums. He's been on 4-7 laps. There is that battle, and surely Zabra Alecki's is going to have another chance there as Single is using DRS, but not close enough to the back of Sweezy here. So Sweezy he's on a very odd strategy, having done 2 set stints on the mediums, but he's working his way into this one somehow into sort of podium contention, as now we see, or at least holding off Singles. We now see Alecki's comfortably up the inside of Jared Batala, the Spaniard, into turn 12 then. But you can again feel the frustration from Single that his strategy has relied on him using 2 sets of hards, and he doesn't seem to be he really doesn't love the first 3 or 4 or 5 laps on the hards. It's really only at that point that suddenly he sort of gets on top of them, and I wonder if he's just trying to avoid the mediums and use the softs at the end. Is he going to have another go up the inside into turn 1? Will it be more successful this time? The cell spot on the outside leaves almost enough room, but the side pod hits the front left wheel, and Single almost gets scared into backing out there, and rightly so. He cannot afford to crash out in a clumsy maneuver there. So yeah, Sweezy trying to leave a decent amount of space, but yeah, Single putting the car in a bit of an awkward position here.
I think the problem that Single's having is that car seems pretty much well set up if you're going to run the optimal lines on those hard tyres. You know, we saw when Single's in clear air, he can run some pretty good lap times. It just seems as though that car's very nervous when it comes to the man-to-man combat, as we see side by side on the DRS. It looks like this is going to be job done now for Single, is it? No, Sweezy fights back.
Here we go. Sweezy takes the long way around. That will be the inside for 13. He dives it in. The cell spot not about to give up without a fight. Then Single keeps his foot in. He's got the inside for 15. Late on the brakes. Izzy leaves just enough space for Sweezy, who is just going to disappear into the rear view mirror there. Fantastic side to side, wheel to wheel racing there. And it is Van Single that takes 5th position. And now he's got to catch up those 5.7 seconds to his teammate Gatlin Martis.
Yeah, and we'll probably see some nice lap times start to appear from Single now, as he has got no Sweezy to deal with for sure. I can't see Sweezy coming back at him now, and that was just a very clean, well, I say clean, there was a bit of wheel banging going on, great bit of driving. And yeah, hopefully for Single, he's going to be disappearing off up the road and showing us that that car is definitely optimal.
Indeed. But yeah, certainly Sweezy putting in a great show and actually racing very well side by side, not to clatter into Single. They very nearly locked wheels at turn 1, didn't they? And I think Sweezy was eager not to have too much of a repeat there, and definitely that was the case for Single. So yeah, he's released now, is our championship leader. Gatlin Martis has sort of been stuck behind Van den Hudding, hasn't he? So he's been on those mediums 8 laps. Van den Hudding's been on the hards 9 laps. There's not a huge difference between the tyre life of the 2 cars. And you sense now Gatlin Martis running out of opportunities to get past, get at least in between the 2 valets and help his teammate out here. Whereas Cedric Bill, he's been caught by a vast rate of knots here. 138.9 his last lap, whereas Cantoneri's in the 37.7s. So he's been caught by over a second a lap. But he is getting the distance in these tyres. He's not making any huge mistakes here. And even if the lap times aren't great, sometimes you've just got to keep plugging away to make your strategy work, especially if you're going for the one stop, which at a Circuit of the Americas is certainly easier said than done, as Sweezy have been overtaken, decides now is the moment, presumably, to go on hards to the end.
Yeah, and I'm assuming we're going to see a bit of a moment here for Sweezy, and indeed we do. So
Well
that's
saved.
yeah, the warning he needed to say, yeah, time to go fit some hards.
Yeah, sometimes the tyres give you instructions about or what to do, and those tyres said, nah, I'm done, I mean, get me out of here, and put some fresh ones on. So now Galamatis, as we see out of the pits comes Sweezy right behind Nandor Marsa then. So that's another pair of Go teams that Sweezy is probably going to spend the early part of this stint battling away. So Marsa has undercut Sweezy by pitting 5 laps before him.
Yeah, and we see Galamatis now on the DRS actually for Van den Hudden. As for Bill up front, he's probably got to go a few more laps if he wants to try and get the mediums to go the distance. He's already passed half race distance on those hards, so he's definitely getting his money's worth out of those hard compound tyres. It seems as though a lot of other drivers here are unable to get that sort of many laps out of the hard compound tyre, but I expect to see what we lap 26 with out of 48. Where we're going to see, I think it's roughly about 15 laps on the mediums from what I can see, but obviously he will have a lighter fuel load, so that will take a little bit less out of the tyres.
Zolczyk says Cedric one stop. I think that's got to be the plan at this point, unless something bizarre happens. But yeah, it's interesting. He did such a good job right behind Single after the incident, just staying behind and still able to save the hard tyres, because he's still lapping in the low 39s at the moment. To only be losing a second a lap on tyres that old compared to Canzonieri, I think that's quite impressive, because Canzonieri's on 12 lap old tyres, Cedric Bill is on 27 lap old tyres. So there's quite a contrast there in tyre life, but it's only going to get harder from here on in, and that is the trouble for Cedric Bill. It's very, very impressive, and I imagine a lot of the teams in the World Championship will be looking on at what Cedric Bill's strategy is here, because they might be contemplating about doing something similar, a very long hard tyre stint come that race as well.
Yeah, and looks like each lap Galamatis is just getting that little bit closer to Van den Hudden. Again, he's got the DRS, but is he going to be close enough to make the move? I don't think so, no, but I think it's possibly a lap or two away from from happening.
Yeah, so this is the problem. Galamatis is about 10 slower in the first sector. He's about 3/10 quicker in the middle sector with the DRS as well. But he's been on those mediums 10 laps now, so Single is catching him at a rate of knots 137.0 his last lap, so he is about a second lap quicker than Canzonieri. Sweezy late on the brakes up the inside. Now Marseille almost doesn't realise what's happening until it's too late there into turn 12. So Sweezy up into P9, and now he's got to chase down Batala, who you think had been on those mediums about 11 laps, is not going to be able to hold up much of a defence here.
No, and you'll probably see that Sweezy through these corners will start to catch her hand over fist, just because of how much grip he's going to have in these early laps on those new tyres. Here's Canzonieri, who's gradually closing on Cedric Bill, but not at the rate that we would have thought he would be. So I think as long as Bill can hang on for another few laps, he's looking pretty peachy, really.
Maybe not to win, but certainly he's in contention for the podium, isn't he? 138.1 for Canzonieri, 139.3 for Cedric Bill, so actually 1.2 seconds again being taken out of him here. So Canzonieri is going to be in range in about 2 laps time, isn't he, at this rate?
Yeah, 2 or 3 laps, although it seems as though that gap hasn't, as we said, it's been just over 3 seconds for a good few laps now. It's only till now that we're starting to see the gap start to come down, so I think it may be a couple more actually.
So here's an interesting question. We see Sweezy immediately trying to go up the inside of Batala. Batala has to go very, very wide at turn 11 to make sure there's enough room. May now actually be able to punish that by getting into DRS range. Could that be a clever ploy from the Spaniard to immediately breeze up? But no, actually he timed it wrong. That was a genuine mistake from Batala. The DRS actually saves Sweezy. So the point I was going to make is, Sweezy goes a little bit deep into turn 12, but doesn't lose too much time as a consequence. If you are Canzonieri and Van den Hudden, and Cedric Bill is basically trying to do one stop less than you, get onto your strategy here. Do you converge if you're worried about the tyre life of these hard tyres? Do you converge and sort of beat Bill to the pit stop here? Or do you try and overtake him on track genuinely for position? Because there's a danger Canzoneri could lose a bit of time stuck behind that Go team.
But the problem is we're still quite early into this stint, and it would be a big ask to go this many laps on a set of mediums. They still kind of need to go, I would probably argue, another 4 or 5 laps until they consider pitting onto the mediums. So it's a tough situation. Canzoneri's still closing. It's 1.3 seconds now, or near 1.5 seconds to Bill. But we'll see how it goes, really.
Yep, Single, by the way, has cut the gap to Gallimanis. He took 4 attempts out of him the previous lap. 2.5 seconds is the distance between him and that podium battle between Van den Hudding and Gallimanis. And it's definitely, much like Singapore, turning into a day of damage limitation for our championship leader. But you've got to say, Cedric Bill has got himself sort of into contention here, but it's Canzoneri that's got the fresher tyres and therefore all the cards to play with here, essentially. In theory, if he can catch up to him, Cedric Bill is going to have very, very worn tyres that are not going to offer much defence in this situation. Now, Canzoneri, going to the end, may struggle if somebody behind him is on a different strategy and he's on very worn hards. But by that point, he'll have such a gap, won't he? And Van den Hudding on the same strategy behind, 2 seconds in arrears, Director's rear gunner, essentially. So you've got to say, Bill is kind of trying to stretch out as long as he can, but he knows when he pits, he is going to come out probably just ahead of Alekis, isn't he, in 6th position.
Yeah, but he will have some nice fresh, I'm assuming, medium tyres for him to come through on the guys that are on much older hard tyres.
You'd think so, unless this is a truly insane strategy and he's holding out for softs, which I think only really Single and Sweezy might be doing that. As look at this, Canzoneri well and truly on the back of Cedric Bill now. This will be his first opportunity to get through here. And he is closing at a rate of knots then down the straight. The DRS wide open and Cedric Bill knows he can do nothing about it. Canzoneri retakes the lead and Cedric Bill is down to 2nd position then. 18 laps to go. And is Cedric Bill going to start contemplating a switch to the medium tyres then for the final stint of the race in a couple of laps' time?
Yeah, I think depending on how Canzoneri reacts, Bill could potentially go onto some medium tyres sometime either at the end of this lap or next lap. It does mean he might have to go a lap or 2 longer than what he would probably want, as we see Massa on Patala, who's been chasing him down for a couple of laps now, and looks as though he's got the job done. Yep, Patala can't really fight back from that.
Bill is in. There we go. So the longest stint we saw on the mediums was 16 laps by, I believe it was Gallimanis in the first stint. So Bill has been forced into pitting a bit early because he saw which way the wind was blowing when Canzoneri went through. Akhayan is following him in as well, interestingly. So I'm not sure if that's a scheduled stop or not. Did David Akhayan pit a lap ago? Or am I misreading it wrong? Because I think he's going on to another set of hards, as this is going to be close on exit. And Cedric Bill is side by side with Sabra Alekis. Alekis was inching into the pit window, wasn't he? But Cedric Bill keeps him just at bay, and that is crucial for the Frenchman's race.
Yeah, and brilliant stuff there from the Go team. And I feel they had to pit and pull the trigger when they did, because they were going to find themselves behind Alekis if they went a lap longer.
Yeah, exactly. So that extra car, you may not think it, but having 3 optiminals rather than just 2 to deal with in this stint could be crucial. We know Single's got to come in again. We know Gallimanis has also got to come in again because they both use the same compounder tyre in the race so far. That rule has changed, and they should be aware of that. Otherwise, they're both going to get disqualified. So yeah, Van den Hudding and Canzoneri can both go to the end now. So if Gallimanis and Single pit out of the way here, Bill could genuinely be a threat to Van den Hudding in this final stint, depending on what his pace is like. So far, it's been quite strong. Here comes Akhayan. Now it's his turn to clear Patala, as Akhayan is trying to get to the end on this set of fresh set of hard tyres, essentially.
Yeah, and it is going to be well, Bill on the medium tyres. It's going to be long, but with the fuel load going down, it's going to be a little bit more doable. There's less strain on the tyres. We'll see how it all pans out.
Has Canzonieri lost some time here? Look, he's only about 9/10 ahead of Van der Hutting.
I'm not sure what happened there.
So is this a genuine mistake, or a Valet getting Canzonieri into tyre preservation mode, maybe?
Quite possibly. Are they going to go the rest of the way on a set of hards, or are they going to go for a late pit on some softs?
Yeah, now the thing is, do they know that Gallamanis and Single have to do another pit stop here? Because if they, and the other thing as well, if they pit now, Cedric Bill could potentially undercut them as well. So this is the really tricky part of the race now, because of that pit stop from Bill, Valet are in a position where, to ensure they keep track position, they've kind of got to stay out, don't they? Whereas Optimal have already committed to coming in again, but that means they'll be behind Bill and possibly Zaparalekis, who they can get to move out of the way because he's one of their cars, essentially. So it's not a big issue.
Yeah, this is definitely turning into a game of high-speed chess right now between the Valets and the Optimals, but also they've got the Go team in the works as well. So many variables, and that's Canzonieri going into pit lane. So Canzonieri trying to cover off Bill, but I fear Bill's going to be taking the net race lead, essentially, if these guys are all going to pit.
That'd be a very Cedric Bill move to just outsmart them all strategically, wouldn't it? But he's going to have to go a long way on those mediums, as Canzonieri going to the mediums now would have a much easier time of it. You can tell he was struggling at the end of that stint on the hards, but a 17-lap stint is not quite the same as Cedric Bill's 30-lap stint, is it? As fastest lap of the race for Bill. He knows how important this exit is. Side by side they go. Bill goes long around. Is he going to go too deep into the first corner? But it's enough to get through. Cedric Bill into 4th position, and that could be the net lead of the race. Canzonieri has emerged behind. And has Canzonieri put on the hards? That can't be right.
It looks like, it looks like he has. No, there's some white-walled tyres on that car, and he's gone for the hards for the rest of the stint. So has he felt that he'd rather push as hard as he can on a set of hards than nurse a pair of mediums to the finish?
Yeah, certainly a fascinating scenario here, but that means Cedric Bill knows he's got to pull away while the going's good before the hards start to catch up with him then. So he's got to nurse the mediums, obviously, but at this point he needs to break out of DRS range of Canzonieri to prevent him attacking him there. But that was an absolutely excellent outlap right when Cedric Bill needed it the most there.
Yeah, and obviously managing to complete the undercut there over Canzonieri. And Canzonieri's going to struggle in these early laps, as we've seen. It seems that the drivers are struggling in the early laps with the hard compound tyres, and Van den Hutting chooses to stay out. So are we going to see him continue to the end, or as we see Cedric Bill coming out round the outside, obviously left plenty of racing room there to Canzonieri.
I tell you what, he had to brake so late to pull that one off there. That was very, very confident from Cedric Bill there. So now see Akhayan has caught up to Massa. Cedric Bill has set the fastest middle sector of the race on this lap, pulled 1.6 seconds ahead of Canzonieri. I think Valet are splitting the strategies here, you know. I really think that Van der Hutting might try and go to the end here, as that's very defensive, as Nando Massa defends fresh air there down the start-finish straight, or maybe he's trying to see what the pit wall looks like. I don't know. But yeah, Gallamanis and Single now, surely this is a matter of staying out as long as they can and switching to the soft tyre for the final stint, because that's their only play left.
Yeah, it's either that or they're going to extend a little bit more and then have a little bit more free range on the medium tyre. They don't have to worry so much about conserving it to the end, and it could just be quali laps to the end on a medium.
Possibly so, as Olivier Demoliens near the back of the field makes a stop. So yeah, it's after some early retirements, it's nice to see we still got 13 drivers running, because we did see, especially in the World Championship at Singapore, I think only 8 finishers late on the brakes from Sweezy. It's the signature move. Off the road goes Zaparalekis. He rejoins in front of Sweezy and then lets him through there. So Zaparalekis very keen not to get a penalty. It was very, very funny as you see Akhayan clears Massa as well at the same time. But after, as we see, Van den Hutting does come in, so they're not splitting the strategies. Van den Hutting wants fresher mediums to try and get to the end then, and that's going to put him behind Canzonieri in 5th position.
Yeah, and here's Leckies we run on board. That's Sweezy just up ahead. Here we go. So Sweezy dive bombing down the inside of Leckies. It was a late move. Leckies tries to close the door a bit, and usually you'd expect the driver being passed to say, "Oh well, he pushed me out there. That's why I ended there." But no, being very gentlemanly and sportingly gives the position back.
Feels a bit Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, doesn't it? Except with a different outcome. In this case, discretion about Vala Akheim complete the move much earlier on down the straight then. Cedric Bill, by the way, another fastest lap of the race in 1:36.5, so he's about 1.5 seconds per lap quicker than both Gandamatis and Single in front of him. So, and their lead is essentially illusory because they both got another stop to do, having relied only on the same compounder tyre so far. You can tell Istvan Single has struggled a lot on tyre wear today, and that has been the Achilles heel, why he's had to rely on the hard tyres so much then. But we're getting to the end of this one. Just, let's see, 12 laps to go then, after this one, I believe. And Cedric Bill could well be in a position to take his first win in the Pro Championship at a circuit that he has been so successful on in the past. In comes Gandamatis off of the mediums. He's done 18 laps on them, which I think is the longest stint we've seen so far on the medium tyre. So exceeding his first stint by another 2 laps. So Gandamatis has had probably the most unusual strategy of anybody, and he's surely going to try. He's got to use a different compound, hasn't he, Gandamatis? He can't use the mediums again, so he's got to go for the softs, and that's exactly what he does.
Yeah, and I feel like Single's possibly shot himself in the foot a bit there, as we see Gandamatis coming up behind the pair of the Valley eSports cars. But Single, who in this current situation, although saying that he started on the mediums, so it probably wouldn't have worked, but you'd ideally want to see, oh, I wonder if I can go to the end on these hards, as we see Leckies once again on board. I'm assuming he's going to go a bit wide here. Yes.
Oh yeah, so track limits warnings, he might be running out of those at this point. Jeffrey Fournier responds to Solzix saying, Cedric One Stop says, strategy is not decided yet, make soft tyres great again, he says. So that's certainly what Gandamatis will be hoping to do, but Bill has committed quite early to those mediums. He's been on them 5 laps now, and he's got to do another 11 or so on them, isn't he? So, yeah, Cedric Bill, he's certainly got the gap to Canzonieri. Van den Hudding is now setting fastest first sectors of the race, 1.4 seconds behind his teammate here. So Canzonieri, all of a sudden not looking as strong or confident, and now both of them are being caught by Gandamatis as well. So this is crunch time for Val 8. Canzonieri's got to find something here, otherwise they could be in for a bit of punishment here in this final stint. And once Single goes to the softs, he could well be a massive steamroller to all of these drivers once he comes out behind them.
Yeah, potentially, but the problem with Single, obviously, being on the only one at the moment on older tyres, he's going to be hemorrhaging time. As you can see, he's pretty much losing nearly a second a lap to Bill. So he's kind of want to get a shift on if he wants to still be within a chance. As Canzonieri feeling he's going to have to go on defensive to Van den Hudding. I was quite surprised to see that Van den Hudding went for those mediums, but it seems like he's got them fired up pretty quickly, and he definitely has some pace.
Being able to go those few laps longer on the harder tyre, the 1 lap longer, it seems to have made a big difference, because Canzonieri's lap times started to fall off a cliff towards the end of that hard stint, didn't they? Whereas Van Hudding's kept them very, very consistent, and he's now set the fastest lap of the race, 1:36.2. So he was a whole 0.8 a lap quicker than Canzonieri that last time around. Admittedly, Van Hudding is now getting DRS as well.
Yeah, and they have got a fast Gandamatis on softs coming up from behind, so I feel like Van den Hudding's no longer going to be playing the team game in terms of rear gunner, but he's still going to go off after for those points for the team's championship.
Yeah, exactly. So, sorry. The team's championship will be at the front of Van den Hudding's mind, but Canzonieri can feel a chance to gain maximum ground on Single, starting to slip out of his fingers here. But yeah, he is still, as we see Single going into the pits, Single is definitely going to come out behind his teammate Gandamatis at least, although you would expect him, the group driver, to move over like we saw in the closing stages at Singapore then. So Single hits the marks in his pit stop. Cedric Bill finally takes the lead in this race once more, and he is about 3 seconds ahead of Ruben van den Hudding, who is chasing him down, sending purple final sectors of the race. Out comes Single in 5th position, and Single, he had the option to go for the mediums, and that's exactly what he's done. So you would think Gallamatis is surely going to run out of softs before the end of this one, and that is going to explain Single's tyre choice here.
Yeah, 10 laps on a set of softs, and obviously you're going to have to push those softs as well.
It's actually 12, isn't it, for Gallamatis, because he's done 2 laps already.
Yeah, but in terms for Single as well, it's still a big ask, even for 10 laps, other than doing 12. So I think the mediums is the right way to go.
Yeah, Single sort of had to pit at that point, though, didn't he? Because Amin Sweezy was getting dangerously close to the pit window. So if he wanted to hold out for softs, potentially he would have had another car to pass. So in the end, Optimal making the best of a slightly compromised situation in terms of the strategy. But Cedric Bill, no compromises for him as we look at his teammate Marsa going through the end of the first sector uphill into 9 and 10. He has pit not long ago, actually, this lap for the mediums, and he's about 10 seconds behind Alecki. So basically a bit of no man's land for Nando Marsa, but he could well be in for a heap of points at the end of this one, as indeed all of our drivers will be. David O'Reilly in 13th, still on for what would be, I believe, a joint best finish after also finishing 13th in Singapore, but he's the only driver a lap down. You can see that is that Mathieu Feligny that's just lapped him there, or yeah, everybody is lapped him there apart from Olivier Demoliens.
Yeah, he's not too far off though.
Oh, Sweezy in. Oh my goodness, so Sweezy has done 3 stints on the medium tyre, and he's realised he's actually got to use the softs before the end of this one now, hasn't he? In he comes. And,
softs on.
He had a bit of a gap to Alecki, so it's going to be close on the exit here. Where is Sabra Alecki's? There he is, just breezing through around the outside. So Sweezy only loses 1 position, and you know, this could be still a decent finish for the Tunisian driver then. After qualifying on the front row, he's not looking like he's quite in contention for a podium, but certainly a top 7, maybe even a top 6 if something kicks off ahead of him with Akayan could be possible.
Here we go, Galamatis closing on Canzanieri, and you've got the 2 Optimal cars bearing down on the Valley eSports car of Canzanieri, and what was looking like it was going to be a race win for today, it looks like he may not even make the podium.
Indeed, so this is a role reversal, isn't it? Canzanieri all of a sudden on the defense from a resurgent-looking Optimal squad, and this is nervous times then, because the Drivers' Championship very much hangs in the balance then. If it finishes like this, 18 points for Canzanieri and 12 for Single, that would be a 6-point swing, so the gap would go from 15 points to 9 points then, but I suspect Gallamatis, if he can't make it through, may end up having to move over for Single anyway to reduce the damage here, as we see Single seeing the fastest lap of the race. Oh, and they're swapping, they're getting defensive here. Van den Hudding has given up on his chances for victory and has decided to hold back the 2 Optimals. That is a bold call. It could leave both of them exposed here.
Yeah, and so does that mean that Bill has outfoxed the rest of the field and is potentially on his way for a win?
He's outsaved them on that monster stint on the hards, hasn't he? And that's enabled him to do this.
Yeah, and this is going to get very, very tasty between the 2 teams that are fighting for this Drivers' and Constructors' Championship, and it looks like Tail Gunner has been activated in the form of Van den Hudding.
Yeah, there we go, but will Optimal bring out the big guns and let Single have a go? Certainly Gallamatis on the faster compounded tyre is going to get the first go here. DRS wide open, but he's a little bit too far back, doesn't quite have the straight line speed, but he's going to go late on the brakes up the inside into turn 12. They nearly lock wheels. Van den Hudding around the outside. Whoa! Bit of contact made, and the 2 Optimals nearly go side by side there. Gallamatis, the rear tyres complaining already at this point in the race then. So this is such a tense situation here, not ideal. And there the call has been made. Gallamatis is told, get out of the way. Your tyres are done, my friend.
Yeah, he had a go, and it didn't quite work out this time. He was definitely holding up Single on those fresher medium tyres. And so now it's Single released, and he's going to go after him.
It's almost like they saw Valet do it and said, we should do it as well. It is, I don't want to say somebody sacrificing their pawn to keep the king in play, but it does have that vibe to it, doesn't it? And certainly, they're all very, very quick drivers here, being used in strategic measures there. Nobody wants to give up a position, but when it's your teammate and the call comes through and there's a championship on the line, you've kind of got no choice. As here is Singel trying to go around the outside of Van den Hudding. Is he going to be shown the door on the exit of turn 1? There we go. That is a bit of a bogey corner for Singel, isn't it? In fact, this whole first sector seems to be a bit of a bogey sector for Singel.
Yeah, and obviously Van den Hudding on those harder compound tyres versus the mediums of Single. So Single has got a bit of a grip advantage over Van den Hudding, but track position paying an advantage as well for Van den Hudding there.
And look at Canzonieri, personal best lap, so he's 136.8. He's about a second and a half clear, so Single has got to make it through now if he wants to challenge for P2. Late on the brakes from Van den Hudding, tries to force Single off track, is able to force Single off track. And that's going to prevent him. Oh, nearly had stepped inside into turn 13. Istvan Singel. He's gone into full bull in a China shop mode, hasn't he? Without touching somehow.
But Van den Hudding is just doing some amazing work here, defending for Canzonieri up front. And he's just pulling off some such risky defensive moves, and it seems to somehow work.
Indeed, but meanwhile, Cedric Bill is laughing all the way to the bank while this is going on. 5.8 seconds to the good, and he's only just started to feel the medium tyres wearing now. He was about 6/10 slower than Canzonieri the previous lap, but 6 laps to go. So you see how close the front wing was at turn 13 there, and that was a close shave for Istvan Singel. And look at this, Singel seems to have lost a little bit of ground on this particular lap then, and he's running out of time to make this move. So I thought this was going to leave both valets exposed, but actually Ruben Van den Hudding has made the difference today, and I think Canzonieri is going to be sending him a huge gift basket after this one.
Yeah, and I think this is what Van den Hudding's doing. He's pulling off some pretty risky defensive moves in a bid to kind of scare Single. Now he realises that Van den Hudding is the hind legs of a donkey. He's going to put a bit more distance between himself, maybe even consider, I don't want to risk an incident that's going to take me out of even more points than what I'm going to lose at the moment.
Because he's not in a Drivers' Championship fight. Look at him squirreling on the brakes into 12 there, as he just tries almost again to scare Van den Hudding in turn, but he's not going to be intimidated here. Van den Hudding knows that Single can't risk a collision with him, because then Canzonieri will just take more points out of him if Single doesn't finish the race, essentially. So it is very much on a knife edge, and Single is just stuck. He cannot find a way through. Van den Hudding is building a wall here, appropriately enough, in the United States, and Istvan Singel cannot find a bridge over it, and Gallimatis can't help him either, as we see the rear tyres really being put through their paces out that final corner then, and Cedric Bill last lap 4/10 slower than Canzonieri on the hards then, and Van den Hudding, he's essentially given up a chance at a win against Bill to help Canzonieri in that Drivers' Championship, so that's very, very magnanimous here.
Yeah, interesting, as you said, about Single, potentially risking things too much and losing out on points. If he was to DNF here and Canzonieri finish second, would Canzonieri take the lead of the
He would, because he's 15 points behind, and he would all of a sudden be a couple of points ahead going into the last 2 races, wouldn't he? So it would be 15, 16, 17, 18. So 3 points ahead then. Would be the gap compared to being 15 ahead, which is the current situation right now. As I said, I think he'd be 9 points. Single would be 9 points ahead if it finished like this, because he would only be losing, let's see, second through to fourth, which is about 6 points, isn't it? So you'd only be losing 6 points.
Yeah, big moment there for Single, trying to get on the power as early as he can and just clipping that exit curb there, and that's going to be taking a bit of life out of those medium compound tyres.
Yeah, you can see Gallimatis is actually coming back into the picture now, somewhat annoyingly, trying to push Single along here. And yeah, you see on board here with Istvan as the rears just start to step out ever so slightly on those medium tyres there. And he pit latest of anybody as well, so he should, in theory, have the tyres in best condition, but it certainly feels like the tyre wear has been against optimal today, and that has given them so much work to do in this final stint to even just get onto the podium here. So Single is starting to feel this championship turning against him, isn't it? and the pressure is really going to build from here. But for Cedric Bill, he is doing absolutely everything he needs to. 4 laps to go. He's been caught by 4/10 per lap by Canzonieri, but Canzonieri is 4.5 seconds behind. Well, just over 4 seconds behind now at the moment. So he's not catching quickly enough. Bill has got him covered as long as he can just keep these mediums alive and make sure they don't drop into the sort of 138. He's doing sort of mid-37s at the moment.
And now he's got single with Gallimatis all over the back of him, as you said, managing to come back into play on those soft compound tyres, although I feel that he's just a bit of a spectator in this situation as team orders have been called.
Yeah, I thought I was seeing more team orders up ahead, but I think that is David O'Reilly being put another lap down. It's the orange Severin Arrow is being overtaken by the yellowy orangey Valleys. So in the evening sun, they look a bit similar.
I saw it in the distance, and I was like, has Van den Hudden managed to close on Canzonieri? But no, it's the other car of O'Reilly.
Here is Amin Sweezy. Oh, another late on the brakes move. Lucky he didn't take out Alecki's there. Feels like Sweezy has been making more stops than anybody, but he's certainly been putting on a show at the end of his third and final stop here with the soft tyres in play. You would think Amin will have a couple more chances to clear Alecki's, and it's only about 3 seconds to David Akhayan, who is lapping in the mid-37s as well. Cedric Bill, very good last lap, 1:37.1. So he's only lost half a second to Canzonieri then. So if Canzonieri starts taking a whole second a lap out of him, then I think we might be in for a photo finish here. So it could still all be in the balance here, and certainly his Van Single hasn't given up yet, but you can sort of feel the frustration starting to boil over here. Could he go for a marginal move to try and sneak onto this podium?
Yeah, and he's definitely trying, but I think he's sat back for a bit as Single, and he's sort of brought the temperatures down a bit, and he's now looking to make moves to get closer to the back of Van den Hudden. But it still seems, as we've seen all race, that Single's kind of struggling to get the power down on that optimal car.
So just 3 more laps to go, and we've got 5 cars that are within about 8 seconds of each other in the fight for victory here.
Yeah, and this is probably the most exciting race we've had in terms of championship, and the way that everything's turned out between Optimal and Valley. So to find these guys, as I said earlier, playing a very fast game of high-speed chess, as we see Cedric Bill in the lead, 3.6 seconds as they come across the line, and I feel, like you said there, Ed, that if he carries on the way he's going, it's going to be job done for him.
Yeah, Canzonieri's lap time starting to slow a little bit, 1:36.8, so he only gained about 3/10 that last lap. Bill is taking this race by the scruff of his neck. I have a feeling we're going to be thinking of Circuit of the Americas as Cedric Bill of the Americas, I think, at the end of this one, because he just seems to absolutely click with this place. And considering he started, I'm trying to remember where he was on the grid, wasn't he? He was 6th on the grid, and he's absolutely outfoxed them all with the one stop and gotten the tyres to last. So the tyre whispering strategy has absolutely made the difference today. And Canzonieri, try as though he might, he's seen the win stolen out from underneath him here, as now Ruben van den Hudden doing the best defensive job that he can to keep Single and Gallimatis at bay. But his Van Single here is starting to lose patience, I think, and he knows time's running out rapidly.
Yeah, and it just seems like these last few laps, Single's just not been able to get close enough to Van den Hudden to mount a challenge. Whether or not he's just saving himself and going to go for it on the last lap, will obviously, time will tell, but not going too well as we thought for Single in this final stint.
Here's Amin Sweezy. Is he close enough on this occasion? Oh, that's so late. Oh, that was clumsy. And he taps the back of Alecki's. They both spin around. And we saw Cedric Bill do a similar thing earlier on. Remains to be seen if Single is going to try and protest that after the race. But yeah, I imagine Sweezy and Alecki's, who Sweezy actually did file a report essentially against himself for a move he did in Singapore. And yeah, then we are seeing a similar situation here where Sweezy diving up the inside, has made contact with Alecki's, and that was just too late on the brakes and way too optimistic. He thought the softs had infinite grip there, and he found it ran out.
Yeah, Sweeze Stappen he could be called now with those sorts of moves, but still, Canzonieri is taking temps out here and there, but it's not going to be enough on this second to last lap.
Yeah, 6 temps on that previous run, 2.8 seconds. That's so frustrating because he can see Bill right in front of him, but he knows he just hasn't quite got enough time, not enough grunt behind him to catch here. And even the hards now, he's been on for 14 laps, they're not really going to be at their peak performance here. Single 8 tenths behind Van Hutting, agonizingly just within DRS range, but agonizingly a little bit too far back to really take advantage of it into turn 12 then. So Single is really only going to have a couple more opportunities on the final lap to steal that third position. And the fact that Bill is winning will take some of the sting out of it for Single, because he'll only lose about 6 points in the championship lead, but going into the final 2 races 9 points ahead, that is really tense, considering Single had a much bigger lead of over about 20 points at one stage, and now Sweezy pushing too hard to make up for his earlier mistake has looped it round at turn 9 and 10.
Yeah, luckily for him.
Oh! Well, not so lucky, because I think that was Massa that hit him there.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there from Massa. That was pretty... He saw that there was a gap. He thought a gap was going to open. I don't know if that was a sense of Sweezy saw Massa closing at a rate of knots and thought, I'm going to jump out the way here.
Sweezy got going again, basically converging onto the racing line, and that's exactly where Massa switched to, up the inside. As Cedric Bill has started the final lap, by the way, 2 seconds ahead of Canzonieri. So this is the scene of the crime. Luckily, debris cleared up at this point. Very, very efficient marshals in this game, must be said. But yeah, that was... I think Massa probably would have been better advised to steer clear offline, trying to avoid the stranded car. Then maybe he didn't see the yellow flags. It didn't look like there were yellow flags from what I saw. So I think Massa might feel that a bit unlucky there as the victim of that racing incident. He's coming to the pits. Sweezy sadly is retired, but he's still down 90% distance, so he should still get a couple of points for 12th, because O'Reilly's a few too many laps down to catch him. Look at Canzonieri, 1.5 seconds behind, and it's so near yet so far. Cedric Bill has mastered the tyres, has mastered the Circuit of the Americas, and he just needs to keep it together for these last couple of corners, and his first pro victory is going to fall his way. He's finished 3rd and 2nd in the last 2 races. He goes one better here at the Circuit of the Americas. Through the final corner now, and Cedric Bill is a winner in the Pro Championship in 2025, a well-deserved victory. Canzonieri finishes 2nd to cut in to his Van Singles Championship lead, and Van den Hutting is going to hold him off to take the final spot on the podium. What a race, and you could not have predicted that.
I was brilliant there. Again, I think, possibly contender for race of the season in terms of the on-track battle that we saw. And I think Canzonieri is going to definitely be owing Van den Hutting a bottle of wine or something. Oh, and that's
Bill has decided to destroy his front wing after crossing the start-finish line. So, yeah, maybe... I hope Single didn't decide to go for some revenge there after the checkered flag. But yeah, nonetheless, I think Bill may have just done that on his own by mistake. So there we go. Oh, there's him and one of the valets have come together. So I think that was him and Canzonieri.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. There we go. Let's see what happens here then.
Yes, so Canzonieri on the out. Oh, he gets tapped in the back by Single.
I get Single, yeah.
Oh, and then it's Van den Hutting that decides to kiss his front wing. So that the later one felt a little bit more playful, but yeah, you can tell this Van Single not a happy bunny.
Yeah, I mean,
by contrast with Cedric Bill, who seems on top of the world, doesn't care at all.
Was that somewhat intentional there from Single? A bit of frustration appearing from the championship leader.
Well, let's see if anybody reports it, because nobody reported Single's misdemeanor at Singapore on the pit exit, but this one, I have a feeling the steward's going to be busy long into the week ahead. But nonetheless, everybody's crossed the finish line apart from Massa, who we're still waiting for, I think. He's somewhere out there. I think because he had to pit, so he's way behind everybody else. But yeah, that's still going to be 11th position, but a huge shame for him and Sweezy to hit trouble near the end, although it does promote Batala Fellini and Demolians all a place into the top 10 then. So they will be very, very happy with that. So time then, I think, as Cedric Bill takes the wounded car back to the pits, but it's a victorious car to go over the final results then, because I think Marsa is almost certainly going to finish in P11 eventually, and Dinner's going gold downstairs without wanting to put too fine a point on it. Cedric Bill then takes his first pro victory, a huge milestone from the French driver. The one-stop strategy, tyre preservation, proving to be the keys to his race as he outsmarts the valets that looked to have things sewn up at the end of that first stint. Giuseppe Canzonieri still comes home second, just 1.4 seconds in arrears, and Ruben van den Hudding does the defensive job of all time to keep Single and Galnamatis, the fearsome optimal duo, at bay. And Istvan Single, frustrated after the earlier contact with Bill. It was certainly a bit of a clumsy dive from Cedric Bill, but yeah, Istvan Single taking it very personally indeed. Let's see if he does report that one. Kostas Galnamatis, fifth behind them. Soft tyres at the end, maybe not the way to go. David Akhayan takes sixth after Sweezy and Marsa crash into each other at the end, which sort of saved his bacon a little bit. Sabralekis is seventh. Jared Batala finishes in 8th position. Mattia Feligny in the DRS car takes 9th position. Then Demolian sneaks into the top 10 after a very quiet but nonetheless impressive race from the Frenchman. Lando Marsa, after that late collision, has to settle for 11th. Amin Sweezy not getting to the end, but still will be classified in 12th after starting on the front row of the grid. And then David O'Reilly takes another 13th place for 7 Arrows, our race director for the World Championship now, definitely getting his eye in to the Circuit of the Americas, and more valuable points for that team. Sadly, not getting to the end and not classified will be Andrei Boratovsky, Perseus Miriam, Samuele Tidona, Leila Petraglia, Sigurd Frey, and Juri Kotochvil, who didn't even get to the end of the first lap. So here, confirmation then, 9 points is the lead in the championship for Istvan Single. It's been cut into significantly across the past 2 races, and there's 2 more to go. Canzonieri is certainly going to fancy his chances, and Cedric Bill now is our 3rd place man, who's probably a little bit too far back. I think he's still within about 50 points of Single, so mathematically in contention, but Van den Hudding officially is out of championship contention. So, also on this board, we've got Amin Sweezy still in 5th, Marsa 7th, 6th, sorry, Akayan 7th, Miriam 8th, Winter 9th, and Van Leeuwen 10th. So, Ryan, any final thoughts then before we end the day at the Circuit of the Americas, at least for the Pro Championship?
Well, we definitely saw the fireworks start to go. I mean, firework night isn't until later this week, but they came a bit early for us here in America. And the thing that comes to mind is Single. If he does appeal Bill, and Bill gets a post-race penalty of some sort, that would promote Canzonieri to the win. So what does Single do? Because he's sort of a double-edged sword at that in that point.
Yes. maybe he's going to regret also hitting him after the end of the race, but who knows, there's revenge. Then nonetheless, Japan will be the next round, 16th of November, followed by the finale at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. But don't go anywhere, because in 40 minutes time, Owen Harmon and David O'Reilly, who you saw in action in this race, are going to talk you through the World Championship round at the Circuit of the Americas, where Mike Schluter goes in with a 54-point lead. He could very well be the world champion and take his first FSR World Championship at the end of today. So don't go anywhere, you do not want to miss that. But from me, Edward Hunter, from Ryan Ferris alongside me in the commentary box, and Patrik Hanko, doing a marvellous job on broadcast direction as always. It's good night and goodbye from the Circuit of the Americas, and well done to our winner, Cedric Bill.